I want to teach you my formula to create a password that you can remember. And it's a secure password, and it's different on every website. And if you can remember this, it could help you. All right, buckle up and stay hydrated. It's time to jump deeper into the jungle. We're gonna drive our Jeep together. I know that looks like a bus, but that's because we want to fit more people on it. I don't know. It's kind of a weird metaphor here. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. Our featured topic of the week. So last week we talked about the scam email, and I said that one of the things you need to do to make sure you're protected is have a really secure password. And I alluded to the fact that I would create a video in the future about that password. I decided to do that today. It's actually been on my list of videos to make. I want to teach you my formula to create a password that you can remember. And it's a secure password, and it's different on every website. And if you can remember this, it could help you. So the first thing I want to tell you is the absolute best practice is to use one of these new softwares that's out that handles your password for you. And there's several out there in the market. One of them is known as LastPass. And the idea is this software will help you keep track of your passwords. All you need to remember is the one master password for your site. And then this software will it will even create like random generated passwords for every other website you go to and save them and log in for you. And all you have to do is remember the one password in LastPass. I use a very similar tool that's built right into Google. It's part of my Google account. It's part of the Chrome browser. And that's the one that I use for remembering my passwords. So that's the absolute best practice, is to use a software that is secure, that will randomly generate a password that's made up of gobbledygook characters. And that's the best thing to do. So that's my highest level of advice for you. Use a software, use random generated passwords, and have a great day. But that's not totally practical in my experience, because there's a lot of times when you need to enter in a password a lot, or for whatever reason you want to be able to remember your passwords. So if that's something you want to do and you understand that it's not quite as good as a totally random generated gobbledygook password, then I've got a tip for you today, and that's to use CJ's password formula to create a password that you can easily remember. So let's go over that together a little bit. So I want you to help you create a password that you can remember. So here's my formula, okay? And let me know if this makes sense. Let me know if you're following this, okay? Let me know if this feels good, please, in the comments. So here's my formula right here. It's going to be 3 pieces that we're going to smash together, and I'm going to teach you how I do that, okay? So just to let you know, it's the website you're on, it's a secret code, and then it is numbers. So that's why this says website plus secret code plus the numbers. So the website is the thing I put in the front, and I usually use the initials. So for example, if we're talking about Facebook, I might just use FB for Facebook. Does that make sense? Now, this is the part of the code, this is the part of the password that changes every time. So really, what you're going to be remembering to do here is the last part of that password is going to stay the same. Your secret code and your numbers, that's going to stay the same. And the only part that you're really going to change from website to website is these front initials. And it's up to you whether you want them to be lowercase or uppercase or a combination of both. Whatever makes sense to you is what you're going to remember. So oftentimes, I won't put any uppercase in that first part. I'll just make it lowercase. But sometimes it might make sense to have an uppercase character. If it's a couple words and like the second or third word feels like it should be capitalized, then I'll go ahead and use a capital letter. I'm being a little vague here because it's going to be your choice in the moment. So for example, if we're on Facebook, it's just going to be FB, Facebook. Okay? So the next part is a secret code that only you know, and I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. And then the third part of the formula is a secret pattern of characters and numbers, again, that only you know. It's absolutely ideal if every password that you create has uppercase letters, lowercase letters, symbols, and numbers. The symbols are the ones above your numbers, like exclamation point, at symbol, pound symbol, money sign, percentage. The one above the 6 is a caret symbol. The ampersand is above the 7, the star is above the 8, and you've got 2 parentheses, okay? If you can use a combination of uppercase, lowercase, and symbols and numbers, that's absolutely ideal. So let's go into the next piece here. So what am I talking about? Here's some suggestions for you when it comes to building your secret code, the piece in the middle. I want you to avoid dictionary words. And what I mean by that is something I touched on again last week. There are computer programs that are trying to crack and hack your password. And one of the things that they do is they can, are you ready for this? They run through every word in the dictionary to see if your password is one of those words or a combination of those words. Can they do that? Yes, they literally can. They literally can program these spider bots to try every word in the dictionary and multiple combinations of words from the dictionary. So this is why we recommend, if at all possible, don't use an actual dictionary word, or if you want to, mess it up a little bit. Look what I've done right here in the middle of this slide. And I'm going to have to read it for those folks listening on the podcast. Right in the middle of this slide, I wrote the phrase, "Can you see what I mean?" ? Can you see what I mean? Do you see what I did in that phrase? I replaced the A's with 4s. I replaced a couple of the E's with 3s. I capitalized each individual word, and that one O turned into a 0, and I added an exclamation point at the end. So can you see what I mean? Look at that password. It's a combination of uppercase, lowercase, symbols, and numbers. And it would be nearly impossible for a spider bot to attempt to hack that password. It just wouldn't be practical. They wouldn't be able to run all those combinations. And those are no longer dictionary words because of how I've messed them up. So when you're building your secret code, take a word that you can remember that is your secret code word, but mess it up a little bit. Change out some of the numbers for letters, but do it in a way that absolutely makes sense to you and that you can remember. And instead of using a word, you could use a word if that makes sense to you, or you could use a phrase. For example, your favorite song, your favorite movie, your favorite book. One of my favorite movies of all time is So I Married an Axe Murderer. So I might make a phrase using the letters from that phrase. As you can see here, SIMAAM. So I married an axe murderer. So that might be an example of the secret code that I would have in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as my example on the next slide. So I married an axe murderer is how I got SIMAAM. Now that's not an actual word, so there's no spider bot, dictionary bot that's going to be able to crack SIMAAM, right? That's just not a real word. So you can even go a little bit further by changing that up a little bit. And then we've got the number at the end. So again, something that's going to make sense to you, a series of numbers that you like in conjunction with one of those symbols that you like is good enough, even 3 digits. So let's bring it all together now. So you've got the piece in the front. So in this case, I'm creating a fictitious password for Facebook. I am not actually using this password anywhere on the internet. This is not my actual password. None of these pieces are pieces that I use in my password. I mean, I use similar concept, but not any of these actual letters. So don't try to hack any of my passwords because I don't use any of the things I'm showing you right now. This is just an example. So my quote unquote, my password in this example for Facebook would be FB for Facebook. And then I'm using the secret code, so I married an axe murderer. But look what I did here in this example. The I is capitalized and the first A is capitalized. Why did I do it that way? Because it's kind of backward. I and an is the one that I chose to be uppercase. See, that's something that's a little odd, and I'd remember it. So I would remember, so I married an axe murderer, and I would know to capitalize the one I and the one A. And that would be the secret code in the middle of my formula. And then finally, some kind of symbol and number that makes sense to you. So I just use an exclamation point and 79 because that was my birth year. I'm sorry if that made you feel really old, but just for an example, I don't actually use this on my password. I don't actually use 79 on any of my passwords, but I'm just using it as an example right now. So here, using my formula, using the 3 pieces, you can see this would be a password I could create for Facebook. Does that make sense? Are you following how I put all those things together? Give me some feedback and let me know if that all makes sense to you and you're following that. I'd appreciate it. So once again, it's the website, that's the part that can change. So if I wanted to take this exact same formula and maybe it's over on YouTube, I could use YT, YouTube. Or if I was on Twitter, I might use just a single T, or I might use twit, or I might spell out the whole word Twitter and then the rest of the formula. So that's totally up to you in the moment that you have to create that password. Whatever immediately makes sense to you, whatever immediately comes to your mind is going to be the same thing that comes to your mind in the future when you think to yourself, what was my password again? Oh yeah. It's going to be that same thing that comes to you right now when you want to create that password. So whatever makes sense to you, go with it. That's going to become your pattern, and that's going to become your password. So once again, let me review the formula. We've got the website, we've got the secret code, and then we've got the numbers and symbols at the end. So for me, again, the secret code I invented was based off of So I Married an Axe Murderer, and my numbers is exclamation point 79. So that part of the formula will always be the same, and I will just change that front part, the FB, YT, Twit or Twitter. What are some other websites I could make up? Gilbert Studios, I would use GS, whatever. That kind of thing. Does that make sense? Let me know if you're following that. Zoom, I might use a Z, or I might use the whole word Zoom, and then the rest of my formula. It just, whatever makes sense to me at the moment is what I'll remember in the future. So I hope that helps you. I hope that helps you put together a password that is easy for you to remember. So I'm going to pull it all together now. So it's the website initials, your secret code, plus your number and symbol combination. So in my example, in the end, after all of that, my made up Facebook password would be FBS capital I M capital A AM exclamation point 79. And that's a very secure password. It's got uppercase, lowercase, symbols, and numbers, and every website will accept that as a strong password. And if you only use that password on Facebook, it is now a unique password that is secure, that you can remember, and no one else will be using it. So that meets all the criteria. And then on a different website, you're going to change that first part. The last part can stay the same to help you remember it, but the first part changes, and that's the magic that makes every one of your passwords unique and different. I hope that tip helps you. Please come back and let me know if it does. That's the formula that I use to create passwords that I can remember that are still secure and still unique on each website that I use. Woo! I bet I sounded like a total nerd sharing with you CJ's password formula, but maybe it'll help you create a secure and unique password every time that you need to use one. Or just use the Google tool. There are often times when I'll just let Google generate the random password and save it for me. And that's okay. But there's certain websites that I need to log into like frequently. And it always is asking for my password, and you've just got to be able to remember it. Facebook is absolutely one of those. So I've got to have a password that I can remember that's pretty easy for me to remember. And this is the formula I use. So I really hope that helps you. Please let me know if it does. And we're streaming, and we're live, and we're rocking, and we're rolling. And I probably should go to the bathroom, but I'm not. It's going to add intensity to the show. That they'd like answered in the show today. I got a hair in my face there. Let's get rid of it. CJ, you have hair all over your face. I know, but like this one wasn't supposed to be there.